I've got a great testimonial that I'd like to share with you, and it's from an interview that I did with one of my favorite tribe members. Now, she's a phenomenal person who's been diabetic for quite a while, but within just a few short months, she was able to cut her A1C score in half and lose 50 pounds and get off nearly all of her medications. But I'll let her tell it.
All right. Well, good afternoon. Happy Sunday. How you feeling today?
And I'm pretty good, pretty good.
Got you. Okay, Miss Donann. Well, let's get started about. Let's talk about where you started off at before you joined the tribe. What were you dealing with? What kind of struggles were you facing?
Well, I was going to the gym because I put on a lot of weight after COVID. Um, I had gotten up to like 348. I went to the gym. I was going to the gym maybe 3, 4 months. I lost about what 4 pounds, maybe 5 pounds in that time. And then it was like I was stagnant. I couldn't even lose more weight or anything. I was full of fluid. Yeah, my diabetes was way, way out there. I was having numbers like 350.
Hmm.
Um, I had so many failures that I just wanted to have something in my corner. I wanted to win something. My neuropathy was really bad. I had no my feeling in my right hand was going. I already have decreased sensation because of the Guillain-Barré, but in my right hand was acting up. I didn't have very much feeling in it. And so I was dealing with that. Asthma, allergies really bad, things like that.
Got you. Okay. What was your A1C at that time? Oh, we got some freezing going.
Are we back?
Okay. Yeah. Now we're back. Yeah. Okay. All
Oh, so
right.
I was saying the diabetes was the worst. The neuropathy um, had gotten really bad in the right hand. And, the fluid that I was building up a lot of water through my body. And I think that contributed a lot to the weight also. So I just wanted to get a win under my belt.
Got you. Okay. What was your A1C at the time?
I want to say it was something like it was either 12.1 or maybe by then it was down a little bit to maybe 11.6.
Got you. Okay. So dealing with some real serious numbers then, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, for
Um,
sure.
what kind of medications were you on? Talk a little bit about that.
Whew, my goodness, I was on 3 meds, which was the metformin, which they eventually took me off. And then Lantus. I was taking 70 units at night, which is the long acting, and then the short acting. I was on 40 units with each meal, and then I was on a Lasix to get rid of the fluid, and that wasn't working, but I was on it. I was on about 3 different asthma meds, like the Ventolin, the Breezer or something. I don't know. I was on Flonase, Flovent, uh, occasionally on and off of prednisone, um, the gabapentin for the neuropathy. I was on a lot of meds. I was on like 14, maybe 16 meds.
Oh, yeah, definitely racking them up there,
Hmm.
right? Sounds
Yeah,
like an incredible bill too, huh?
yeah,
All right. So
yeah.
then, basically, you reached out. We got onto a consultation call.
Hmm.
Right. Talked a little bit about it, and then, yeah, what were your experiences getting started?
Well, getting started, um, it was okay. I was I was a little nervous at first. I wanted to be sure that this is what I wanted to do and that it was legit. So I did my research to start with. And, it just seemed like you were very knowledgeable. And every time we talked, I would go back and I would research everything. And, I wanted to make sure that I wasn't getting into something and then was going to fail again because I failed so many times before. I've had multiple nutritionists and I just completely failed, well, or they failed me. That's how I feel now, that they failed me because they didn't have any knowledge of, making a menu or, telling me what was good for me, what was nutritious for me. They just told me, oh no, you can't have fruit. You can't have this, you can't have that. So when I started with you and you started putting me on all of this fruit, I was like, whoa. And I was like, oh my gosh, and he's got me eating rice on top of it. And so I was a little worried at first, but my numbers began to drop. So took a little time, a few weeks, a couple weeks or so, but I started feeling a lot better. I was a lot more energetic. I wasn't tired and worn out through the day like normally. I mean, usually I was so worn out through the day. I would always try to go back to sleep and sleep 2, 3, 4 hours during the day.
Right, right.
So
Yeah, definitely quite a change from what we got nowadays, right?
yeah.
So we talk a little bit about what your experiences are now, and if you're on any medications now or anything like that, what your A1C score and stuff is.
Well, my A1C on last check, maybe a month ago or so ish, was 6.7. And medications, I'm off of everything except the Lantus, which is the overnight one, and I'm down to 12 units at night or in the afternoon. I take it in the afternoon because I drop so low at night that I've had to reduce the Lantus on a continual basis. And so now I'm down to 12 units, and I'm usually waking up about a 130, 140 for my
Right.
blood sugar now. And then after I eat it, it goes up maybe about 30, maybe 40 points.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, it's definitely been a quite the interesting journey, where it's like before it was a big deal to,
Hmm.
get the blood sugar under 200.
Exactly.
Right. Now,
Exactly.
now you're seeing a peak of like 170 or something like that. Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, going from 12 plus down to 6.7. I would imagine it's just a bit
Whew.
lower than that now. Right.
Yeah. And my doctor told me, I just recently went to the doctor and he told me that in the near future he hoped to have not see me as much, rather, to have me doing so well that I don't have to come see him as much, and eventually I don't have to come see him at all. Talk about the endocrinologist.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. There you go. Yeah. Definitely. It's one of the, I bet that one of the most bizarre things, I get people who are diabetic and they see a plan with a bunch of fruit and carbs and stuff on it.
Hmm.
And it's probably like, this guy's trying to kill me. Right. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, you're living proof that, well, the opposite is
Mhm.
true. Yeah.
Well, the one fruit that tends to raise my blood sugar a little more than the others is the bananas. But I try not to have them too much. But as long as I keep it like I do a pudding, I do I can't do the chia seeds anymore, but I do a hemp seed pudding, and I use a couple of bananas. So as long as I don't use the whole 3 bananas, I'm
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Oh, yeah, for the
And I
banana pudding recipe. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it uses the bananas, a little bit of milk, the hemp seeds, some cinnamon, stuff like that. So it's
Gotcha.
really good.
There you go.
cacao powder.
So what about the fitness journey? How many pounds down are you now?
Oh my goodness. Whew. I'm under 300, I can
That's
tell you
right.
that.
Yeah, that was the goal. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm down overall, I'm down 49 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
Since being with you in October, mid October, I've gone from 343. So that's what, 43 pounds, 44 pounds
Mm-hmm.
since
Yeah.
October,
Yeah.
down to 299.
That's right. So
Yeah.
it's on sale. 2.99. Yeah.
299.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, not bad for a 5 month journey. Getting off all of the medications and significantly
Hmm.
lowering and reversing type 2 diabetes. Right, overall
Well,
inflammation and stress levels are down tremendously. Right, so pretty much just
mhm.
wins straight across the board. So going from struggling and having no wins to just having straight wins across the board.
Exactly. Yeah, because I had to start doing like affirmations. It's relaxing to me. And I had so much stress and anxiety. It's very easy for me to get stressed out. And so when I do my affirmations, I tend to be a lot more relaxed. I can my mental clarity is better. I don't have to worry about, being tired and weak during the day. So I do that. I do my breathing exercises. And I do some some exercises at home, strength exercises. So all that's
Gotcha.
included in it. I believe all that
Mm-hmm.
had something to do with me being able to lose the weight. Because every time I got stressed out, it was like my sugars would go up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The one time that I got sick, my sugars went up a little bit, but I think I was only down for like a couple of days. But I souped all the way through it. I was soup, this kind of soup, that kind of soup, and that's how I was getting my nutrition, and it made me feel better, relaxed me, and I was probably sick for 2 days at the very most. Had a bad cold, but that's the only illness that I had, I think, during that time, and grateful for that.
That's right.
Yeah.
Look at that. Well, yeah, congratulations, definitely. I usually tell people, a year of consistency is usually around what it takes to make, a complete, life and body change. Right, to
Mhm.
really, get off of medications and reverse illnesses and drop a ton of weight and everything. Of course, you're a little bit ahead of the curve right now, right? Of course, in another 5 months, you'd be down another, 45 or so pounds, right? Probably even
Mhm.
50, right? Because you got momentum built up. Right? The hardest part is in the beginning. Obviously, when you're sicker, it's harder to lose weight. You have way more inflammation, way more fatigue, tired, and all of that type of
Mhm.
stuff. So you really got to
Yeah.
use food to be able to allow you to gain the power to do the work. Because I mean, if you want to lose weight, it's not diet is very important, but diet is not going to get you there. You got to do the work. You got to give your body the incentive to burn the fat for energy.
Right. Right.
So, who would you recommend the coaching to?
Um, I would recommend it to. Well, I have a couple of friends that are diabetic. That I've been speaking to, and I have recommended the coaching to them. Uh, One is a very new diabetic, and she just recently, within the last couple weeks or so, became diabetic. And then the other has been diabetic for decades.
Mm,
Put it that way, decades. She's an
right.
older woman, and she's her sugars are going out of control, and it's not good because it's causing other issues for her. So
Gotcha.
yeah, I would definitely recommend to them. And anybody else who has any health issues, I mean, I'm ANA positive, and Sometimes my lupus will show, and I don't have a lot of strong symptoms, but sometimes I do get some symptoms of it.
Mm.
And then with the achy bones and stuff, I don't get that quite as much as I was getting before. The headaches, you know, I was taking meclizine and antivert for the dizziness, and so headaches and dizziness are going away. I don't get it as much in the allergy season. I recommended the coaching to one of my sons who needed to lose weight. So I've recommended it to quite a few people, that have some similar issues that I have, even those who don't.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. If you've got chronic health conditions, right? That's mainly what my focus is, weight loss and chronic illnesses, where,
Hmm.
ideally the people have had the most struggles and not really getting any answers, right? Where the medical system falls short, you know what I mean?
Right.
So that's
Hmm.
pretty much the thing that I'm most passionate about. So as far as, like your lupus and different things like that, um, that stuff is going away.
Hmm.
Right. I mean, as you reduce your inflammation, your body gets adjusted to a new level of homeostasis. Yeah, stuff goes away. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Allergies, they go away. Right? So I've had people reverse allergies. I've had people, reverse PCOS and, reverse Hashimoto's and all types of stuff. Right. So, I mean, it's just a
Hmm.
matter of fact of, reducing the inflammation down, which really what happens is it's like this escalation ladder, right? So when your stress goes up, your immune system kicks in to meet the stress with inflammation. And then basically that stress goes up and you get a new level of inflammation. And the higher you go, the
Hmm.
more escalatory you get and the longer it's sustained. You start developing autoimmune issues and whatnot because you start overproducing white blood cells and things like that. And the real scary part though is when the immune system fails and crashes and the stress still stays elevated, right? That's when you start getting things like, drastic weight loss, really chronic fatigue, where you're almost like bedridden, kind of like resembling like terminal cancer, right?
Hmm.
So, a lot of people, their immune system hasn't quite failed yet, but, at the rate they're going, that's pretty much the conclusion there. So, you've been able to really significantly turn things around. So that's a big deal. You're very consistent, right? You're always in the live streams. You're very
Yes.
active in the chat and the Discord community. You know what I mean? You're very consistent with our coaching calls and everything like that. So, I mean, you were serious and consistent and put in the work, right? And it
Hmm.
shows. So, you're getting wins straight across the board. And that's a really big deal.
Yeah, I was consistent because I had a nutritionist that I was seeing through my endocrinology. Um, and she tended to want to push me toward it. She was clashing. She would tell me, oh, well, you know that the insulin causes you to gain weight. And I was like, really? And so I was telling her, well, I need to do something to reduce the insulin and eventually get off it so I don't have to worry about continuing to gain weight. And then when I started losing the weight and she wasn't the one that did it for me, then I think she got a little anxious, a little nervous because every time I spoke with her, which was monthly, I would tell her what a great job I'm doing on a vegan diet and how my nutrition coach, was doing an excellent job and was helping me and doing menus for me, and how I was dropping the weight off. And then she was like, well, you need to be taking the medicine. Why did you cut it down so much? Or why did you stop taking that one? And I was like, well, you know, my sugars are dropping. I was having sugars like 59 and 62, 66. They were really low. And this would be going on all night long. I didn't have a choice but to cut it down. But for her to speak so negatively to me, like she was like, well, you need to be taking your meds, or, it's not going to work for long. You're going to eventually put the weight back on. Well, it's been what, October, November, December, January, February, March, 5 months.
Right.
And I haven't put the weight back on. Matter of fact, I'm still losing the weight, And so, now I try not to get into any of, when I have to speak to her, because it is a requirement. But when I speak to her, I try not to get into anything, too 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 knowledgeable, because it's like she doesn't have it. She doesn't have the mentality for it. She doesn't have the knowledge for it. She doesn't try to research or find out my questions that I send her prior to our meeting. Like, I asked her, well, how much protein do I need? And she pops out a number after she calculates it whatever kind of way she did. And I'm like, how do you feel like I'm going to eat 130 some odd uh, grams of protein when my body don't really need that? How am I supposed to get that, even if I do eat meat? And so I can't listen to her. I hate to say that, but she has unrealistic, you know, expectations for me, and she speaks so negatively to me. She contradicts herself. I don't need that. I'm
Yeah, it's
I'm I'm winning today, and I want to continue winning, so I don't listen to her.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's pretty common actually for nutritionists to have a fairly limited knowledge base when it comes to nutrition, right?
Hmm.
Um, and it was a thing that kind of I would assume that most nutritionists would kind of know the things that I know, right? Just because I mean the same amount of information and scientific research that's accessible to me is also accessible to them, right? We went through the same curriculum, we've learned the same things.
Hmm.
Um, the only difference is I took it a step further, right, or a lot of steps further, where I do 30 minutes of research a day, read peer-reviewed studies, so I'm always learning, right? A lot of people, and I guess if you work in the medical field, it's probably difficult to constantly go through new education and research and study if you're always busy at work, seeing patient after patient, right? So I think that's one of the things where your average nutritionist or physician or something like that, they don't have the free time or the mental or emotional bandwidth to be able to do the research. And a lot of people get into
Hmm.
the medical field and things like that because they feel, well, it's a very good paying occupation, right? So they make the
Hmm.
decision, out of high school, and they go to college 18, 19 years old, and they're in there for 6, 8 years or 10 years or something like that. Well, for a nutritionist, it's a bit less, right? I mean, for a nutritionist, you can either get a certification or you can get your bachelor's out of college. Um, the problem with nutritional research is the fact that the data um, gets a bit of an update every 5 years or so.
Hmm.
So whatever you've learned, let's say 5 or 10 years ago, there's been a lot of new findings since then, right? And then of course, if you're a nutritionist who's in your 40s and you went through the education and got your graduation and everything like that 10, 20 years ago, right? You're probably a little bit behind on the data.
Hmm.
Being it's been a lot of decades have passed since then. So
Yep.
I mean, it's an ever evolving thing, and then the fact that there are cultural implications, right, when it comes to our healthcare system. So there's a very fine line between the science and culture. And a lot of times, culture overrides the science. So, if you have your nutritionist says, "Oh, you are, according to your overall body weight, you need to consume 136, grams of protein."
Hmm.
Well, the problem is the fact that you don't calculate protein according to your overall body weight, right? Because body fat percentage skews the number, right? So if, let's say you have an
Right.
NFL, NFL athlete who is also 300 pounds, but they are over 6 feet tall, an athlete with say 12 or 14% body fat, right, or even 15% body fat, their nutritional needs are going to be a lot different. um Especially given their age, they're probably in their, let's say, 20s, probably early 30s, something like that. It's going to be very different for a woman who is 40 or 50% body fat, who is in her 50s or 60s, with
Hmm.
chronic health conditions. You can't give them both the same macros, right? Or they have to consume the same amount of protein. So there's a lot of nuance, and I think that, and that's when you were telling me that story, and I heard what she said. She kind of realized the number was. There was a pause, I think, when she realized, "Ooh, the number. I don't know. Let's just make it a solid 100, right?"
Exactly.
Um, and that's an indication that a lot of people, probably most nutritionists, actually don't write diet plans. And
Yeah.
the people who do come to me and they're like, "Yeah, I see a nutritionist once a month or so." I say, "Okay, they write you a diet plan." They say, "Well, they tell me generally what to eat." And I'm like, "What do you mean by generally what to eat? Right? Do they give you like
Hmm.
quantities or the amounts?" Well, no, not really. They
No.
just tell me like to stay away from this, or this is fine or that's not. So it's very broad and vague, right? So it's kind of like, if somebody has a really chronic health condition and they're on all kinds of medications, you do need to be a bit more precise. But I think the thing is that if you are a nutritionist and you have a direct pipeline from, let's say, a doctor's office, where people go into a doctor's office, they see the doctor, and the doctor just automatically ships that nutritionist new people. That
Hmm.
nutritionist doesn't really have to put in the work to guarantee a success rate, because
Right.
they're guaranteed customers, they're guaranteed new business. So the work ethic isn't there, right? So they're not going to be doing some of the things that I do. They're not going to be doing the consultation calls, doing the live streams, putting out the content, things like that. They don't really need to. They probably don't have the time to, because they get consistent people all the time from whatever doctor's office they have a pipeline from. So the the commitment level probably isn't really there, right?
Yeah.
Where me, more independent, and I'm more passionate about it, right? Like borderline obsessive, right? Where I can talk about, diabetes, high blood pressure, thyroid, hypothyroidism, things like that, PCOS, and talk about it like all day, right? It's the thing
Hmm.
I'm like, very fixated on. Reversing chronic illnesses. Um, it kind of shows, right? I mean, if you talk to me,
Right.
it's really granular. And, it does take a long time to develop that kind of knowledge base, and you're not going to be able to develop that kind of knowledge base with a few years in college,
Hmm.
right? Especially with the fact that our healthcare system in, agriculture and food system is geared towards a certain culture, right? So if you're diabetic, the assumption is, well, you're not really going to be able to reverse your diabetes, so you just have to manage it. So
Hmm.
it's medications and these pills, right? Um, and there's an emphasis on oh, eat lean lean meats. I said, well, a lot of people don't even know what lean meats is. Well, avoid processed carbs. So what does processed mean, right? These vague kind of generalities, right? And a lot of people I talk to who are diabetic, and I tell them saturated fat and cholesterol and excess amounts of protein contribute to insulin resistance. They've never heard that before. And I'm like, well, this isn't even new information. What I'm saying, this is information that we've known. I mean, even before I was born,
Hmm.
right? But the culture, right? The culture. This is how a person ends up getting on, 18 or different medications, 10 plus medications. It's because people start with a chronic health issue. They start with one or two medications, and then it graduates to three or four, and five or six, and seven and eight. Because anything that isn't growing is dying. Anything that isn't getting better is getting worse, right?
Hmm.
So if you're not reversing an illness, you're progressing it, right? Because in human health, everything is a moving target. your caloric intake, your macros, everything is a moving target, right? This stuff's not stagnant. So, you know, the management of chronic illness. I mean, management it's a risky game, right? Because the thing is,
Yeah.
every day is a day that you're older. So even your age, your chronological and physiological age isn't even that's a moving target. So if you started managing an illness at 30, and then now at 50 years old or 60 years old or 70 years old, you're still managing that illness. Well, it's getting worse because you're getting older, and
Hmm.
you're getting on more medications, which cause more problems, right? And so it's kind of like you can have a chef make a soup, and that chef can have an assistant, right, that helps the cooking process. But if you got
Hmm.
too many chefs in the pot, chances are something's going to go wrong. Somebody's going to add too much of one thing, or right? Oh, I thought you already added that. No, I didn't add that. Or oh, I didn't know you added that already, right? And so you end up having too much of this, not enough of that, etc. Because there's too many moving parts, and we know that when the more complicated something becomes, and the more moving parts are in it, or the more medications you're on, the more
Hmm.
conflicts you start to have on a biological and chemical level. And that's essentially what that is. And I think the culture doesn't really know how to deal with that, right? So if you're a doctor and it's like, well, I either prescribe medications or surgeries. So if you're coming to me for help, well, you're getting one of those two things or both.
Hmm.
So when you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So it's like, well, if you have a chronic health issue that is largely centered around what you eat, well, medication isn't going to fix it, right? It's the wrong tool. Surgery isn't going to fix it. It's the wrong tool, right?
Right.
So that's pretty much what that is. So you found the right tool, right? And it shows, right?
Hmm.
So, pretty much eating almost exclusively out of the produce aisle, right?
Exactly.
Carbon up, getting the abundance of carbohydrates in the diet, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I went to the app to order food. I didn't want to go to the grocery store, so I says, "Well, I'm gonna go ahead and order it to come to me." So we go to what's called Wegmans or Whole Foods. Well, I do.
Mm-hmm.
So I says, "Well, I'm gonna order from Wegmans, and I'm just gonna have DoorDash bring it to me or whatever." And I placed my order, and it was only maybe two items that was not in the produce aisle, and it was my almond milk and my oatmeal. Everything else came from the produce aisle. And the lady that did my shopping puts a little note in the chat, and she says, "I love it. Your shopping was so easy. I would take care of you any day, anytime."
Right, right.
So I thought
Yeah.
that was pretty cool because she was really sweet. So,
Right. Yeah, because it's like, oh man, everything is in the same aisle. This is amazing.
hmm yeah, everything was easy to find, and I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, well, I appreciate that. It just made me think about how easy it is because working with you, I was able to get a monthly menu. Um, we did weekly calls, and uh, if I needed my menu changed, you know, all I had to do was say something. So I really appreciated the weekly calls. I may not have said that, but I'm telling you, I really did because, excuse me, all I had to do was say, well, my sugar is not going down, it's going up, or, I don't feel good, or this or that. And you would tweak my menu, to meet my needs if I was having an issue, or you were able to do what the nutritionist never did, which was tell me, hey, just give it a little bit more time, give it to the weekend. Let's see if, something changes. So, and I really appreciate that because I never had that before. I never had
Mm.
no one to say, hey, I'm behind you 100%. I never had no one to check on me daily and say, what are your numbers looking like? How are you feeling today? Are you still having the headaches? Are the headaches gone? Maybe you should try this, or maybe you should try that, or, you know,
Oh, we got a little disconnect going.
Did I lose my connection? Uh-oh. Are you
There we
there?
go. All right, you back. Yeah, you
Okay.
back.
So I was told by a lot of people, my doctor, my nutritionist, all of them told me that my diabetes was not reversible. They said once you go on insulin, there's no chance for you basically. You're just stuck with it for the rest of your life. It's not something that's gonna go away. So I'm really grateful. I'm really grateful I found Tribe by Noir because I tell you what, I probably would have just died in the mix with them.
Mm,
Yeah,
mm. Oh
yeah.
yeah, that's a
That's what
big
they told
deal.
me. Yeah.
Yeah, well,
They literally they tell you that once you go on insulin, it is not reversible anymore.
well, you know what? You're living proof that yeah, we got to rethink the culture,
You better know it.
right?
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah, this is another reason too, as far as the daily coaching support and the weekly calls. Why I do that,
Mhm.
um, is because people typically they'll meet with their doctor once a month or every 3 months. A lot can happen within a span of several weeks,
Mhm.
right? A lot can happen within a span of several months. And so if something is going off or on the wrong track and it's going on like that for several weeks or even several
Mhm.
months, and you go back to your doctor and your doctor gets ambushed with a set of worse conditions, it's like, well, if you would have
Mhm.
talked to somebody weekly, you could have fixed that sooner than later, right? Um, and so, that's the reason why I don't just write people diet plans and send them on their way. I'm like, well, it's not just the plan because you know what? Things are a moving target. You can be doing well on a diet plan and then a family member passes away and then all of a sudden things are completely different. And you have to adjust for that, right?
Mhm.
People they get laid off and it's like, oh, I don't know what's going on. My blood sugars are elevating again. I'm not sleeping well. I need to change my diet. I was like, no, we got to figure out other ways to regulate your stress. You have to address the new changes, right?
Mhm.
So your health is always a moving target. And so when you have that coaching support, um, there's a lot more durability, right? You can address an issue sooner than later, right? That's why the contact is so important. That's why I do the Discord where, you can reach out to me and send me a message and, during the day and pretty much any time and
Mhm.
you're guaranteed a response. So you don't have to
Exactly.
send an email and wait 24 to 48 hours to get in touch with somebody and all that type of stuff because this you don't have that kind of time to burn. So if you can get
Right.
answers in real time, you get more success that way, right? And if
Mhm.
you are getting off on the wrong foot, you're not sustaining it for such a long period of time. So that's the reason for that. So congratulations to you, much success, and
Thank you.
I'm definitely going to be checking in on you and monitoring the progress. We're going to see where you're at by the end of the year.
I know, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's right. So, all right. Well, yeah. Closing statements, final words.
No, I'm just one, I'm just glad that my doctor gave me my endocrinologist, he gave me an opportunity because I kept telling him, just give me time, let me lose some weight, let me lose some weight. And over for 2 years, he kept giving me a chance to the last time when he scared me, when he said he was going to stick that thing on my stomach and it was going to shoot insulin into me every time I needed it. And
Mm,
I was like, no. So he gave me that opportunity to fix it. And that's when I found he fixed it.
mm-hmm.
Yep. So he's proud of me now.
Nice.
I'm proud of me.
Absolutely, you should be.
So thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, appreciate you. Spending some time to talk to me today and share your
Of
experiences
course.
and your progress and success so far.
Mhm.
And yeah, many more wins left to go.
Uh-huh.
All right.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
On the road to creating a body transformation and healing from chronic illness, We take a full spectrum approach: diet plan, training plan, daily coaching support, and weekly coaching calls. I want you to be the next success story. So book a call with me to get started.